Imagine an all-star game where players play actual defense and compete until the very end of the game. There would be one major tweak the league made that completely transformed the way all-stars approach this game, something that no one saw coming.
I didn't know what to expect because it was a new format, new year. And at the end of the game, everybody was like, that was pretty damn fun.
But don't just trust the eye test on this one, because I've gone back in time analyzing each all-star game, and you won't believe the stats that made this game stand out. This game might have been the exception, but if the NBA desperately wants to save All-Star Weekend moving forward, they're going to have to take some notes from this one and decide what to change. Because as you well know, the NBA is never afraid to change. For decades, the NBA All-Star Game stuck to an East versus West format, but as of 2018, that would all change as the NBA was looking to spice things up. Players with the highest number of votes would be selected as team captains, in which they would be drafting players like a street ball pickup game. In an attempt to reinvent the wheel, it was something new, but still lacked the formula for what would be needed to make a banger All-Star Game. But more on that later. Hence, the league made an announcement that the 2020 All-Star Game would be seeing a new format this year. The format had two new changes. One, the first three quarters would be scored as if they were separate games, and the score resets after the quarter ends. Whichever team won the quarter got $100K for their team's charity. And second, once the fourth quarter was started, the cumulative score for the game was brought back on the scoreboard, and the entire quarter would be played in what's called an elam ending, which basically gets rid of the timer and instead places a target score each team needs to reach in order to win the game. Based on these two rules alone, players would be incentivized to compete until the very end of each quarter to win their charity some money. But what if I told you none of that really mattered and that there was only one number that would affect the way the players competed in this game? The league decided that the target score to end the game off would be 24 points higher than the score the winning team had coming out of the third. 24 points.
Kobe Bryant
has been killed in a helicopter crash.
Just 4 days prior, the unimaginable happened. 9 people on board died in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California, including Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna. Younger players grew up watching Kobe in hopes to achieve greatness, and now that person was gone. Players' emotions were at an all-time high. No one knew what to do or make sense of it.
We're in the middle of a shake moment. We're all shook.
It's hard to say if anyone had basketball in mind, as the Lakers-Clippers game that was scheduled 2 days later was postponed. So what about the All-Star game? The NBA could have called it off, but instead they would make this a game to remember. To honor Kobe, the league would have players on Team LeBron wear number 2, Gianna's number, and players on Team Giannis wear 24, Kobe's number. And 24 indeed was that magic number that would determine the final target score for this year's All-Star Game. And if that wasn't enough, the All-Star Game MVP trophy would be renamed to the Kobe Bryant Most Valuable Player Award. The first ever Kobe Award is not something every player can say they have. But more on that later. The All-Star Game would be an uphill battle though. Viewership has been steadily declining, with the year before, 2019, averaging below 7 million views. The first time it's gone under since 2010. This year's format would have to work, and it was nothing short of a highlight reel.
have won 8 of their last 9.
Yeah, they're cool and all, but I meant to show you these highlights.
3. All right, here's LeBron. James. Embiid takes him down low. Lost his footing. May have traveled.
Would you have ever believed there would be an All-Star game with Kyle Lowry taking charges that are actually called by the refs? See, actual defense was being played in this game, which is one of the ingredients needed to make a banger All-Star game. The one variable that's been non-existent for All-Star games in the last decade finally makes a comeback. And the numbers don't lie. This chart shows the number of fouls called in each season's All-Star game. Fouls indicate teams are playing defense or they're trying to stop someone else from scoring. There were a total of 35 fouls called in the 2020 All-Star game. That's 20 more than the previous year. To find another game that had this many fouls, you'd have to go back to 2006. But back to the game. The individual quarters made it feel like a game within a game. So if a team completely dominated one team for one quarter, it would just reset back to 0-0 for the next one. And with the exception of the second quarter, the game was neck and neck, all thanks to the defense, which was the single biggest reason that led us to a close ending in this game. the final ingredient for this game's success. If defense leads to closer games, and closer games lead to players taking more calculated shots, the ones that would resemble that of a regular season or playoff game. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to see any Harlem Globetrotter highlights, but if we could get more high-intensity level plays like this, I think the fans would tune in more. But they've been tuning out. Just take a look at this line that skyrocketed starting in the 2000s. This shows that teams are scoring more in All-Star games at a higher clip than they would in a regular season game by 60, even 80% more. So let's just say a team on average scores 100 points in a regular season game. But as of 2015, an All-Star team would average 180 points, almost double the points. And to no surprise, the increase in scoring lines up with the decline in viewership since the 2000s. Now I get it, these are the most elite players of the game. They're supposed to score more points, but this isn't the only reason we've seen a surge in scoring. To get the full picture, we've got to go back to 2013, 14, 15 even. Ring a bell for anyone?
Bit of the body. Curry catch and shoot triple. Hit another three for the record. There it is.
We've been seeing more points across the league because of threes, and we all know threes are the ticket to creating separation in a game, which nullifies any chance of an All-Star game being close. Take a look at the number of three-point attempts per All-Star game, which have skyrocketed since 2013. For the next 2 seasons, All-Star teams took a combined 30 more three-pointers each game. And it's gotten so bad that in 2024, the All-Star game had a combined 168 three-pointer attempts. That's nearly 5 times the number of threes in the 2010 All-Star game. But what's even crazier than that is when the Denver Nuggets in the 2025 playoffs attempted 45 threes in a game. Again, who would have predicted that an NBA playoff game 15 years later would have one team alone taking more three-pointers than both teams combined?
Stop shooting threes and step inside.
The scoring has gone insane, vertical, through the roof, but I actually don't think excessive scoring is the main issue. Players are evolving and getting better in the league, and that's expected. Players don't run half-court 90s offenses anymore. Given the chance, players will lock in for the final moments of a game, if it's close, but they have to be playing for something. And in this game, they're playing for the Black Mamba. What was a roller coaster for the NBA in the last 2 months led to a swift start for the All-Star game with Team LeBron winning the first quarter, and it did not disappoint.
Hard with the lead, beautifully done for James. Here's Leonard really feeling it again.
What is going on? Leader in steals and Ben Simmons.
And he takes the miss.
Reigning NBA champ Kawhi Leonard was on a mission, damn near knocking down every shot he took, finishing 8 of 14 from the three-point line. Between him and CP3 dishing it out to the rest of Team LeBron with 6 assists and shooting 61% from the field, the MVP would be theirs for the battle, but more on that later. Team Giannis would take the second quarter, ending off the half with a cool ice tray buzzer beater.
Rebound.
That's his
And
range.
Young from center court. Yes.
But the third quarter is where the intensity started picking up. By the end of the third, the score ended up being tied at 41 apiece. Now recall, whoever wins the quarter gets $100K towards their charity. But since there was a tie, the stakes were doubled, and it would carry over to whoever ended up winning the game. So whichever team won the game would get $200K for actually winning, and then the $100K that carried over from the third quarter. The cumulative score entering the fourth quarter was Team Giannis up 133 to Team LeBron 124, making the target score 157 points. Team Giannis had the lead, but not for long.
Leonard with the pull-up. Yes. Right there. Here's LeBron setting it up, and Davis.
The game was sitting at 154 to 153 for the longest time ever, with Team LeBron only needing 3 to seal the deal. But then a sequence of events happened. Unlike any other game I witnessed, we got to see a goaltending call in an All-Star game on Giannis, who attempted to block LeBron's shot, but the call was overturned to a clean block, still keeping the score the same. Next up, we see Harden going for his classic step-back game winner, but was called for a charge against Lowry. The nerves were getting to the players, and players on each team were fighting to win the game. LeBron not only scores an easy bucket to get the game within 1, but he locks up Embiid on defense, giving his team one more chance to seal the deal. As if karma has an interesting way of working out, Lowry was called for a foul on the pass to AD, which gave him a trip to the free throw line with a chance to win the game.
Oh!
He laughs it off, but gets a second one to go, winning the 2020 NBA All-Star Game. I remember being on the edge of my seat for this one, and the only complaint I had about this game was that it ended off on a free throw shot instead of a game winner. Speaking of Kawhi, he would go on to win the first ever Kobe Bryant All-Star Game MVP award.
I want to thank Kobe for everything he's done for me, all the long talks and workouts. Thank you. This one for him.
Without a doubt, Kobe's presence was felt, and the players answered back by giving fans the most competitive All-Star Game we witnessed ever since Kobe himself was in one. It was a close game, like Kobe would have won it. One that was won just by 2 points. To find the last All-Star game that was this close, you'd have to go back to 2010. The total combined score of this game sat at 312 points, which reflected a much more defensive-sided game. Looking at the last 9 years prior, the average combined score of an All-Star game sat at 317, and this game sat right below that average. So there you go, it was clear-cut. The NBA now had a new format, proven to be successful to use for the next several years moving forward, right? But not so fast. Fast forward to the 2024 All-Star Game, which broke a record of a combined score of almost 400 points. Super high scores indicate little to no defense, which means not so entertaining of a game. And now we find ourselves back at square one. But how? Well, the NBA continued to use this format for the next 3 years. After all, why would you not rinse and repeat what was just a major success? But the league resorted back to the East versus West format in 2024. And it's safe to say the ratings pushed them to cave in desperately, as the last 3 All-Star games were the lowest viewed All-Star games in the last 20 years, now falling under 5 million views. The only sensible thing to do now was place blame, and that's exactly what the fans did. The league again changed the format in 2025 to host 3 different games that were first to 40 points, with one being the Rising Stars sharing the floor against All-Stars on Sunday night. Let's just say many weren't happy with that.
When the All-Stars are on the court, now it's the All-Star court. Those guys did not make the All-Star team. To be playing in the All-Star game and you did not make the All-Star team is absurd.
It was a weird new format that many fans seem to think was also just a placeholder to collect some bread from sponsors. I personally never tuned into that, and it seems like many of the other players didn't as well.
Irvin Magic Johnson once told somebody, why show up? They don't care, why should I?
Scale of 1 to 10, your thoughts of the format?
10 being the best?
Yes.
A 0.
But let's not absolve the players from this either, because let's face it, it's hard to solve a problem that they created.
To dilute the significance of NBA All-Star Weekend is a crime. If they had spent time over the last several years showing a scintilla of effort, then none of this would have happened. None of this would have been necessary.
So what's the final solution? Fast forward to June 4th, 2025, the league announced a World vs. USA format featuring the US-born stars to face off against the international stars in 2026. Not only is this the solution the NBA needed, but it's the matchup NBA fans have been dreaming of. Even Giannis is on board with this. The NBA has become more and more of an international league, and to put it in perspective, a US-born player has not won MVP since 2017. Players would have a reason to compete, which is what we've been missing all these years. In fact, it overrides all the other reasons that make a good All-Star game. It's what made 2020 so successful, because the players played for Kobe. No amount of money was going to make an impression on stars who already make crazy money. Rather, it comes from something within, a burning desire and a passion to display and defend your greatness in a game you become elite in. For once, I actually agree with Draymond. The 2025 format sucked, but the league is building off of it. Although fans were conflicted with keeping the Rising Stars playing on Sunday night, it does make for a great matchup, because who would want to lose to the rookies? Meanwhile, as a rookie, wouldn't you want to have the bragging rights that you defeated the top dogs? Now the league is taking that same concept and transferring it over to the world players who will go up against the US-born players, putting them on alert.
Because I'm saying the world community are going to descend upon the Americans to say your game that you invented, show that you care. Otherwise, we're going to call you out and the world is going to take notice.
And if this matchup doesn't bring the best out of both teams, it might just be the last straw for the NBA.
If this doesn't work, I think you're going to see the NBA do away with All-Star Weekend. And this era of players will forever be stained.
But I believe this format will work because there's something intangible, something that we can't really put our finger on that brings out the best in players in these situations. Just like January 26, 2020 brought the best out of the players that wanted to embody the spirit of an all-time legend. And now, nearly 6 years later, this will be the All-Star Game that will let which team decide. Either we're still holding it down or we got next.